wonky. It's very wonky. Welcome back to the studio. So me and Jack sometimes stay in the studio because we use this as like a big cinema screen and we put a mattress on the floor. So on Friday night, I think it was, we stayed over, and then Saturday we forgot to bring everything back inside, so we ended up staying Saturday night, and then we ended up staying in here on Sunday night as well. Just because it's quite fun actually. We like to just, you know, get snacks, food, and just chill in the studio. So that's what we did on the weekend. And then Jack woke up on Monday morning, decided that he was going to paint the floor. So we are currently in this state. As you all know, I painted my studio floor about a year ago. It actually got so disgusting, and the reason why Jack decided to start painting it on Monday was because when we were staying over, we like removed obviously the mattress and everything and put it away, and he looked at the floor and was like, this is disgusting. So he decided randomly on Monday morning just to paint it. I was going to paint it this week, which funnily enough, I don't even think he knew actually. I just sort of mentioned that I needed painting. And as you can see, and you probably saw in my last video, I've hung the telephone just from the ceiling here. So I wanted to sort of preserve the telephone for a little while because I've got some more plans with it. I think I mentioned that in my making of video. So if you haven't seen that, you can go have a look at that. Today's job is to paint the floor, paint the walls, get this studio back up to its tip-top self. Then I'm going to start painting all my props for the orange project and see where it takes me.
Just stuff like that. If you're going to need at least two.
So the first thing that I'm going to do is this wall here. I've filled it out a little bit with some expanding foam because there were so many little gaps, and I could just do with it being plastered, but right now that's what we're dealing with, and I think I'm just going to paint it, so let's do that. Previous clips you saw were last week, and I've not been in the studio or finished the floor since. So the past week and a half has been just like non-stop. I feel like I've just been constantly doing something, and it just means I've not been able to get in the studio when I've wanted to, but that's all right. I'm happy with that because I've been doing some really interesting things in the garden. We've finally got to a place now where we can maintain. Yeah, so we put 4 extra beds on the side in the allotment, and I've got 2 beds that I don't know what to do with yet, and I'm thinking I might plant some more flowers. So I've got some dahlias that I'm growing, which you probably saw in the previous video, and I can't wait for them to bloom in the summer. I went down to London a couple of weekends ago, was it last weekend? With the coronation weekend. I went down for a wedding on the Saturday, which was the King's coronation day. So quite nervous to see the traffic, but actually everything was so quiet around where I was. The wedding was at the Foundling Museum. Whether you're a royalist or not, I'm not particularly into it, but it was quite interesting to see the crowds and everyone getting excited. As you might know, I'm sort of cutting down on weddings now, just to focus on the colour project and my art. Last year I had so many weddings, which were all amazing weddings, but just so many weddings. I just felt like my projects were lacking. The timings were, you know, so spread out over the year last year because of weddings, because I had no energy to do anything other than weddings. Yeah, I think I still will always do weddings, but I just felt like I needed to, for my own mental health and the sake of my creativity, I needed to cut down on them. So, but yeah, like I say, I did one on the Saturday in London, and then on the Sunday I went to Birmingham, but I travelled sort of on the Saturday night to Birmingham and stayed overnight in a travel lodge again. So I spent the weekend in travel lodges. So the past week has just been kind of like focusing on that, focusing on regaining energy, and also doing my garden, because that gives me joy and makes me happy. After the few clips that you've just seen, I kind of just left it to dry, left it to sort itself out, but I've realised that it won't sort itself out and that I need to come in here and put it all back to where it needs to be, and then I can start the orange project. I've been thinking over the past week or so what I want as like the main prop, and I am thinking I might create a giant fork or shovel or something along those lines. I'm not sure yet. I just kind of need to see where I'm at once I've got this studio back to its self. So I've just finished the studio tidy up and it's back to tip-top condition. I now have a beautiful white floor, which I'll show you in a moment. Pepper wants to come in, but he's not allowed for a little bit, just whilst I cherish this white floor, because I don't want his paw prints all over the white floor in the first week. Peppy, no. And for those wondering, here is what the white floor looks like. It's never perfect, because this studio is called the Wonky Studio for a reason, and it's time now to start the orange project. Pepper really wants to come in. My hair is super wild today. I've brushed it out. I have naturally curly hair, and I straighten it and everything, but I've just brushed it out and it's like Hagrid, Hermione triangle. So it's a few weeks later now. Wow, this month's been crazy. It's just been a bit of a wild ride. I've had a lot of like things to deal with this month, and I just feel like May has just been so crazy. There've been so many bank holidays, and I've had so much like days where I'm like, bloody hell, what day is it today? And I just feel like I don't know where to start. In the middle of the month, we sadly lost my beloved Rosie. Rosie has been our family dog for the past 14 and a half years. She's been doddery and old for about 2-3 years now, and there's been times in the past where we're a bit like, she's got lumps, there's definitely some sort of cancer, but she's been absolutely fine. She's not been in pain or anything. So on this Tuesday, she was not doing too great. She was breathing quite heavily. She couldn't get comfortable, and then overnight she was just panting and not very well, and then the next morning she could hardly walk, not eating, and which, you know, when Rosie's not eating, it just means there's something wrong. So we ended up taking her to the vet that morning, and we just knew that it was time to say goodbye. And honestly, it was so traumatic. We just sort of knew. We got to that point where we're like, if we just keep her alive, it's just going to be a bit traumatic for her, traumatic for us. She's going to be in pain. You could clearly see she just couldn't cope. We're not even really sure what it was, but to be honest, I don't think it's going to change anything because she's gone, and that's the most painful part. It was just such a traumatic time that I was like, I can't even function. I just feel like I've had a lot recently and a lot of like grieving going on recently, but it just means that I'm channeling it into my work, which is always what I do. Whoa! Yeah, and it kind of brought up some... Oh, God. So yeah, it just sort of brought up the feelings that I've had over the past 6 months of grieving, really, and it was like another thing that happened, and a nail in the coffin of
pain. I'm getting on with my life and I'm creating again, which is amazing. I'm loving it. But I just feel like I needed to get that out there before I create and carry on with these videos. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a tough month. Been enjoying it in parts, and I've been creating again, like I said, and I've been really inspired. Obviously I'm conceptualizing the orange project at the moment. I've got all the gear to start it. I just feel like I've not been inspired enough to really delve into it. So I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna park it to one side for the moment and then create the things that I wanted to create. So I've started a new series on TikTok and Instagram, recreating my old concepts. Yeah, with my style changing over the past 3 years, I'd say, since I've been up north, I wanted to delve back into the concepts that I'd have done over the past 10 years. And I've just been looking through and noticing the ones which stand out to me, and I've thought, you know what, I might recreate them in the studio and see where it takes me, and see if it ignites the fire again. Because I've been feeling a little bit, since the telephone project, I've been feeling a bit like, oh God, where do I go from here? Like with the orange project, I know what I'm doing, but I just feel like I need something outside the colour project to make sure that I'm on the right track, if that makes sense. So in the past, I've been quite an experimental person when it comes to self-portraiture and creating, and I felt like I've been a bit like focusing on one project at a time, which has been amazing and I've absolutely loved it. And it's been great for my mental health because it's given me something to focus on, it's given me something to really get my teeth into and conceptualize and not think about too much else. But I've decided recently that I just wanted to be a bit more experimental and free again. And this series has supported that feeling. So I've been recreating my old concepts, hence the backdrop here. This is one that I've been creating this week. The first concept that I made was an image called The Shock, which is an image that I created in 2018. It was part of my 7-day self-portrait challenge. If you are an OG, you might remember it on here. I will link the video below so you can see the original image of me creating the original. I put a post out on my Instagram and asked which image everyone would like to see me recreate first, and that was the image that stood out the most to everyone. I'm very pleased with the final outcome, and it prompted me to do a second one. I think I'm going to make this a series. So the other day I recreated this image, which is called Attachment. So I shot it with the exact same ribbon that I used, which I love the fact that I've got all these props still. And it's feeding into me keeping things, but it's all right because I'm reusing, recycling and reusing again. I've not edited it yet. I'm going to be editing it today and it will be in my next video or over on my Instagram or TikTok, so you can go have a look at that. But I just wanted to finish off this video here because it's just been all over the place and not coherent at all. But sometimes that's what it's about, isn't it? Being a creative, and also someone who possibly might have ADHD. I've been also working through that in therapy. So it's something that I've been dealing with on the side of things. Not necessarily saying I do have it, but I definitely have tendencies and traits of it, which I've been working on. So I will leave this video here and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.